Okay everyone, now we're going to add some functionality to our game where instead of clicking on the monster and having it, or when the monster is clicked on having it just disappear, we're going to have it play a little bit of an animation to make it look a little bit cooler. Before we get started writing any code and changing things around, we're going to resave this as Monster Game 6 like we've been doing. You should know why by now since I keep saying it over and over again. Okay. First thing we're going to do is we're going to go into the monster movie clip. And on the actions layer, I'm going to bring up the actions panel. And down on the bottom we have this function called kill monster. Now be a little careful here because I'm going to, just to save time, and people do this a lot, I'm going to copy paste. So now I have two kill monster functions, but I don't want two. I'm going to change the second one from kill monster to die. So it's function die. And it's still going to be event, but instead of mouse event, make sure you change this, very important, from mouse to motion. Okay, so now what we're going to do is, rather than have it die when we first click on it with a mouse, it's going to die when a motion ends. And we don't have that motion yet, but we will in a minute. Okay, the kill monster function, think of it more of killing monster, because you click on it and it's dying, it's starting to die, it's being killed, but it doesn't actually die until the motion that we're going to create with a motion tween, until that motion totally ends. And when that motion does totally end, that's when it's going to be dead, and that's when we're going to stop listening for any type of motion, and we're also going to remove it from the stage. Okay, so right here, all this code inside the kill monster function is not going to be there anymore, so we're going to delete that. Okay, so we have function die, event, motion, event, void, and then we have removing the animator and removing the monster from the stage. So now we're going to close this out, go back to our main timeline, and we're going to do just like we did before. We're going to create a new layer above the background layer, and it's just going to be a scrap layer, so we're going to delete it later. Just so we can see what we're working on a little bit more clearly, I'm going to turn off with the eyeball the background layer, and on this scrap layer I'm going to drag on the monster. Okay, but now at frame 1 it's very small, but we're going the opposite way now. It's going to be big like this, and then we're going to make it get small as we go some frames. And I'm going to make it, well, let's just do a 5-frame animation. So here I'm going to press F6, and at the first frame it's big, and we click on it and then it's going to get small. And if you remember, I think last time as it came out it spun this way, so this time I'm going to make it spin the other way. So with my free transform tool and making sure I'm at frame 5, I'm going to drag this around some, maybe go a little further so it really looks kind of silly. Shrink it down if I can get the right cursor. There we go. And then on the properties of this symbol, I can change the alpha, I could change the tint, I could change a bunch of things, but I'm just going to say, hey, let's make it disappear totally. So from frame 1 to frame 5, it's going to disappear. But remember, we don't want it to just blink away. We want it to tween away, or motion tween. So at this frame, if I can get back on it, let me just make it even a little smaller. So in between these two, we want an animation. So not on frame 1 and not on frame 5, but 2, 3, or 4, right click and say create classic tween. So now if I scrub the playhead, you can say I start here, and as I shrink and spin away and disappear, and then I'm dead. Okay, so now we right click on the arrow, we go copy motion as ActionScript 3.0, I'm going to name it the same thing, this, say OK. Now that it's copied to our clipboard, we're going to delete this layer because we don't need that, and then we're going to go into the monster movie clip icon, double click on that, bring back up the actions panel. Again, you guys can press F9, but I can't because of my recording software. And then over here you can right click and say paste, or just Control V on your keyboard, and it pastes in all the code that makes that motion happen. Now there's a few things we have to adjust here. First of all, it's trying to import this animator class again, but the first time we did this it imported that, so we don't need that anymore. So we're going to delete that. Next, when we set this up before, it declared a variable called this XML and called it an XML type variable, and down here it's doing it again because I guess it doesn't know that that's already up here, but we know that, and we can't declare a variable twice. It gets all stupid if you remember. So we're going to take out variable and take out that it's called, or that it's classified as a XML type variable, and we're going to delete that as well. So really we're using the same variable, just giving it different properties for this animation. So we don't want to redeclare it and reassign what type of variable it is. We just want to use it again. And same thing over here. This animator we used before, we used it a bunch of times. So we can't declare it if it's already been declared, and we can't tell it what type of variable it is if it's already been told, because the computer will be like, yeah, don't tell me that twice. So we'll get rid of that. So we won't do it. So now we have everything we need except one other thing. This kill monster function, or killing, because as it moves away from frame 1 to frame 5, it's dying. Okay, but somewhere in here we have to say, okay, let's listen for when the motion ends. So when the motion ends, that's when we're going to run the die function. So it's actually dead. I guess I could have called it the function. I could have called it dead instead of die, as in past tense. But you get the point. Okay, so over here we're going to say this underscore animator dot add event listener. And what type of event is it? It's a motion event, and it's going to be motion end, and when the motion ends, we're going to run the die function. And the die function does just what the kill monster function did before, removes it from the stage. But now we have an extra piece of code which makes, sorry about that, which makes the monster being killed play an animation, and then when it senses the end of that animation, that's when it actually runs the die function, which actually removes it from the stage totally. So it looks good. We've already given it our new name of Mr. G Shooter Game 6. Of course, yours is going to be your name, Shooter Game 6. But before I go and run it, I'm going to save it just in case something stupid happens. It won't. If it crashes, I'll still have my original. So you can see when I click on them, they spin backwards the other way. This motion actually happens kind of fast, so it's a little hard to catch. Maybe I'm not so good at moving the mouse. I'll play it again. I don't know how well it'll look. And then here we go, crashing on us. But see, good thing I saved it. Okay, program crashed on me again. Just for the hell of it, I'm going to put the background back on. So I changed something, resave it, and try and play it again. Maybe that'll just make it go. Let's see what happens. Maybe not. Not sure why this keeps happening. Okay, had a little crash again on my computer. Had to restart. Back here, one thing I noticed was I didn't have the background on. That wasn't the problem. But I'm going to turn it on now just so it's there and resave my game. The other thing I noticed too is my monsters are coming out so quick, I'm having a hard time clicking on them. So I'm going to open up my actions panel and change something. You don't have to change it. You make this whatever you want. But as we know, we're creating a monster every second. So I'm going to change this from 1000 milliseconds to 2000 milliseconds. So that I have more of a chance to move around and click on the monster. So I'm going to resave that again. And then this is what it should be. Oops, that's what happens when you right click. Now I messed it up, sorry. Let's do it again. So you can see the animation playing now when I click on myself there. Sometimes I miss because they do come out fast. So it's a challenging game. You have to make sure you click on them.